David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you not one, but two pens from the company Artcraft. I reviewed a couple of their previous models. There was the Moonwalk pen as well as the Mars Rover pen. The company has specialized in unique 3D printed pens. And in those previous models, they have used the 3D printing technology to create unique and creative pens. The two new pens I share with you today are a bit more straightforward compared to previous Artcraft models, and they are inspired by the Chinese Year of the Dragon, which we are currently in. One is called the Chinese Dragon and has artwork depicting an Eastern dragon, and the other is called a Celtic Dragon and has imagery of a Western dragon, as well as some Celtic design work. If you are not familiar with the difference between an Eastern and a Western dragon, stay tuned and you will learn. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of these pens, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about them. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Artcraft for providing these pens on loan for review. The pen arrives in this rather simple box. Inside, it has a little company logo and some company information. They are based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And then we have the pen. This is the Year of the Dragon, Chinese Dragon, and then this is the one here is the Celtic Dragon. And in regard to the imagery, the Celtic Dragon is a Western dragon. Think Game of Thrones dragon, fire-breathing with large wings, and they live in caves. This one is depicted over some Celtic artwork in a rose. Now, this one here is the Chinese dragon, which depicts an Eastern dragon. Think Spirited Away. Eastern dragons are long and skinny, and they can fly, but they don't have wings. They're believed to control the rain, so typically they live in oceans or rivers. They're also typically depicted holding a pearl in one of their claws, which is a symbol of wisdom and prosperity and spiritual energy. The one on this pen, however, doesn't have a pearl. Okay, for the sake of this review, let's focus on the Chinese dragon. As I mentioned up top, this pen is 3D printed. The top of the cap is flat. The edge is beveled and then transitions into a wide band of dragon scales. The cap, as well as the barrel, has a bit of texture to it, which I feel was a good choice as opposed to being more plain and smooth. The cap is straight. At the end, there is a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which begins with the company name. It's filled with gold lacquer as well as the other graphical elements on this pen. Then we have the key graphical element of the pen, which is the dragon. I feel the quality of the 3D printing as well as the fill work on this pen is decent quality. The dragon has some nice depth to it, which is nice. The barrel is straight, and like the top of the cap, the end of the barrel is beveled and flat. Now, on the end here, there's a little hole. On this pen, the hole has a bit of discoloration, but then on the Celtic, as comparison, it was a bit cleaner. The cap twists off with 1.5 rotations, and underneath we have a stainless steel number 6 JoWo nib. The nib is black and engraved with the company logo. Something interesting that must be new on these nibs, JoWo has their name at the bottom of the nib. I hadn't seen that previously, so they might be stamping them differently now. And also the Artcraft website doesn't specifically say the available nibs, but just say that there's a variety of nib options that are available. So I would assume that those are the most common ones. Each of the nibs are tuned by Kirk Spear of Pen Realm, who is an excellent nibmeister, so I would not have any out-of-the-box concerns with these nibs. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with the cap threads and then angles up only very slightly before an angled step up to the remainder of the barrel. The section is a bit on the girthy side, which I personally prefer, and the 3D printed material provides a decent gripping surface. The cap does post, but it's really not secure. You can hear it rattling around here, and it just slips right off. It rattles around enough that I prefer to use this pen unposted, and it's plenty long enough to do so. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. With the hole at the back of this barrel, eyedropping this pen would be a very bad idea. Both Dragon pens are available on the Artcraft website. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. They have a retail price of $149 for a fountain pen, and they're also available in a rollerball for $99. That price feels about right for these offerings. It's the least expensive offering Artcraft has released. The Moonwalk was just under $200 and the Mars Rover was closer to $300. So having an offering in the mid 100 range is nice for them. I will say that on the Artcraft website, it's set up in a bit of a non-traditional way. There isn't like a button to purchase a pen or put it in a shopping cart on the individual page. At the very top of the page, you can navigate to another page where you fill out a form and select the model you're interested in. So just so you're aware, it's a little bit different. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Okay, here we have the Artcraft Chinese Dragon, as well as the Celtic Dragon. I wanted to give you another closer look at that Celtic Dragon, where you can see it has the Western Dragon, as well as that artwork, and then there's even a rose in there. It's a nice little pop of color. And on this one, there is no markings on the barrel, but there is that texture. You can see that texture that is nice. And then just as a reminder, this is the Chinese Dragon that you can see here. And I do like that band up here and how it is the scales of a dragon, which are nice. So in regard to some size comparisons, this is what it looks like with a previous Artcraft pen. This was the Mars Rover pen that I reviewed a little while ago. And then here it is with a TWSBI Diamond 580. And then for some other pens, here it is with a Lamy All-Star and a Faber-Castell Loom. And then finally, a brand new pen from Benu, which I will be reviewing here in the next week or so when the pen releases. And that is a Steamboat Willie model. It actually has a different name. I am spacing on the actual name right now. Maybe it's like Steamboat Captain or something like that they called it. But it has some nice Disney-themed artwork on there, which has recently come into public domain, which is why there can be some Disney artwork on there. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Lamy All-Star and that Faber-Castell Loom, and then here it is with the Benu. Here we go with the writing sample for the Artcraft. And this is the Chinese Dragon. This is a medium stainless steel nib. And I know I just used this ink in my last review, but since this is another Dragon pen, I still have to use Diamine Red Dragon. It would only be appropriate. As a reminder, this is what the ink looks like. It's a really nice dark saturated red. This is what it's compared to, what it looks like in comparison to Diamine Oxblood, as well as Sailor Grenade. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I will say that this nib is tuned very nicely. Kirkspear does a really great job, and that this nib doesn't feel like just a stock Yovo nib. It does feel like it has been tuned and has a bit more of a tuned feel to it. In regard to the ink flow, it's decent here. In regard to some reverse writing, it's actually fairly smooth reverse. And lays down an extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there you have the Artcraft Dragon series. There is the Chinese dragon as well as the Celtic dragon. I think that these are interesting pens. I think that that the company has really done a good job with some quality 3D engraving. They don't necessarily feel like 3D printed pens, and that they're able to incorporate some interesting design elements using that technology. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.